you guys. All right, I'm excited for this little video today. So I thought I'd sit down and just honestly share my story and share my journey with you because I've been seeing some other beautiful women in our community doing this, and I'm always fascinated by how people have grown, what their spiritual journeys have looked like. I'm always fascinated about, how people start businesses, everything like that. So I figured I would just walk you through what the last kind of 10 years have looked like in my life, in the hopes that something resonates with you and that you feel more seen, honestly. And I am just obsessed with talking about mental and spiritual well being. So maybe this will give you some context around why I'm like that, why the way I am that I am. So grab some water. Let's hydrate, shall we? To be honest with you guys, I have recorded this quite a few times. And my IGTV keeps crashing, so let us pray. I think this is the one, right? I changed outfits, so maybe that's a good sign. So let me take you back to the beginning. It's kind of like a sad beginning. Sad that we have to kick it off this way, but when I was a kid, I was on antidepressants, like really young. Before the age of 12, I was on Zoloft and I was seeing therapists really often. And I'm still trying to figure out why my spirit came into my little body in this way, like kind of out of sorts. And maybe I'll someday do a past life regression or something that'll give me some insight into that. But anywho, I grew up as a sad little kid, and I still to this day am trying to figure out what like triggered that. And I stayed on antidepressants all through middle school, into high school. And it was a narrative in my family, that all the women on my mom's side of the family had depression, and that's just how it was. Like it was a genetic thing. I was taught that it was genetic, which now I completely disagree with. I don't believe that narrative, at least for myself. And I believe that any of us can shift our vibration out of that alignment and that frequency. So anyways, toward the end of high school, I decided I was going to quit cold turkey basically and see if I could figure out a way to holistically heal and just get off this medication because it was numbing me. Like I kind of have a blank spot in my mind of what middle school and high school was like because I was sleeping so much. I was kind of dissociating. It was a little messy, but I had just the sweetest family. My poor parents were probably like, "What is this kid doing? Like, what is wrong?" I can't even imagine, honestly, being my parents. Love them so much. I grew up in Maine. I grew up in Kennebunk, Maine, in this little beach town. And when I was ready to go to college, I had been always really interested in music. I was a big theater kid. I've always loved to sing. And I was just starting to write a little music, not that good, but I was writing it. And I was like, let me go to college and see if I can sort this out in a bigger way. So I went to Wagner College in New York and studied arts administration with music and theater concentrations. And I really thought I was going to stick to the path of being a singer, you know, and that's what I just loved doing. So that was really fun. But as I was in college, I was still struggling a little bit with mental health, which was kind of masked by all the partying going on freshman year and sophomore year and everything. It gets very fun. But I wasn't really doing a lot of internal work. I didn't really quite know where to start, to be honest. But I got triggered when I got scouted to model by a mother agent. And the first thing my mother agent told me was, you've got to lose 15 pounds. And which I knew was going to happen if I got scouted. It's like, you got to be freaking skinny in New York. But I was not ready to do that in a healthy way. Like it just immediately triggered my low self-worth. It was like, well, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not good enough. Completely set into motion, feeling like I was only worthy if I was beautiful at a certain standard. So that was a little crazy, but I look back on all of this with so much gratitude because I've managed to outgrow it. But anyways, that kicked off a whole round of disordered eating. So it kicked off bulimia for me, and not anorexia, but I would do these really long fasts that were dangerous, like dangerously long. And I really believe that fasting can be an amazing healing modality. So I do still fast, like intermittently. But but it was dangerous the way I was doing it. And I think it was like summertime, I went home and my family had a little intervention with me, and they were like, Helen, you're sick, honey. Like you got to do something, and just brought my attention to how intense and how real it really was. Um, so once I realized that, I was like, okay, well, now I actually need to do the work. And what is that going to look like? I need help. I didn't really know what to do. I just knew I needed to start feeling better. Um, and the universe dropped in some beautiful friends into my lap. So my senior year, I made a really beautiful new group of friends. And one of my buddies introduced me to EFT. And Brad Yates was one of the first EFT teachers I found on YouTube. To this day, I always tap with Brad. So you gotta look up Brad Yates on YouTube. He's awesome. And I also had him as one of the first guests on the Lifted podcast, which was such a beautiful kind of full circle moment for me when that happened. But love Brad. Hang on one sec. Luna, come here. Luna, she's whining outside. I can't handle it. Luna's not even my dog. She's my housemate's dog, but I am obsessed with her. Okay. Sorry, I got off track. Okay, so EFT, I got introduced to EFT, and I got introduced to all the household names in the spiritual community: Abraham Hicks, Eckhart Tolle, Teal Swan, Michael Singer. I just started to get obsessed. I was like, my whole world expanded into like, whoa, like I am not the victim of life. I am a spirit having a physical experience. And I really started to feel that super deeply and just got so excited about all of this new information and these beautiful new teachers that were coming in. Like my world, I became a new person and I started to look different. It was crazy. Like everything started to change. I didn't want to drink as much anymore. I like had been smoking weed like all throughout college, a lot of high school, like every day, all day. And all of a sudden I didn't want to use substances really. However, I did start to take plant medicine, mushrooms, and mushrooms really, really helped me. And now I think back on it and I'm like, I wish there was a way that like the pharmaceuticals didn't have to use like heavy stuff like Zoloft is crazy heavy, and use like microdosing like psilocybin or something to heal people. Like use the plants. Mushrooms and plant medicine and psychedelics in general really accelerated my healing journey, my like awakening, if you will. I definitely had some experiences that just completely changed me on a cellular level. So that was going on. I was also really starting to get into the music scene in New York and playing all of those little venues on the Bowery, like Rockwood, Bowery Electric, Mercury Lounge. And I was not scouted, but I got paired up with my first manager, Jay, who was literally an angel. And he like trained me like a proper artist. He would have me like running on the treadmill, singing my songs, getting me ready, like booking me almost every weekend at venues and just helping me do that. And I was booking myself too. So it really gave me this, push to like, if you want it, you got to go for it and develop a strategy and like practice. It really was kind of like a music like boot camp. So that was exciting. And that was like my last year of college. Modeling kind of trickled off because I could not handle it. Like I literally my body was breaking down. My self-worth was not high enough to get into that industry. Like, no way. And I finally said to myself, like, Helen, why do you want to model? I was like, I just want beautiful pictures to show people. So I was like, I'll take them myself. So I just learned how to take good pictures of myself. But that's where that went. So then it was just much more about music from there. And so I graduated. Jay and I just became such close friends. And then tragically, Jay passed away. He took his own life. And that was extremely traumatic and extremely heavy to handle. I had never lost anybody really close to me like that, like so viscerally. And I remember getting the call that he had passed. Like I knew it was coming. I just weirdly knew, how we know these things sometimes. I think a lot of us can relate to this, like this intuitive hit. Like I got, the phone started ringing from a mutual friend of ours. And I was like, this is really bad. Like, I don't want to answer the phone. Something horrible has happened. And sure enough, Jay had passed. And when I got that, I threw the phone and I like fell to my knees. And the only thing I could think of to do in that moment was just to pray and communicate with him. And, I haven't thought about this in a long time, but I literally got on my knees and I just prayed and more so like spoke to him and spoke with him. And I just said, I loved you so much. I forgive you. I hope you can forgive yourself if you feel like you've made a mistake in taking your life like this. I love you. Thank you. I honor you. Go toward the light. I was just trying to encourage his little spirit to just go to where it felt safe, because it's so tragic to lose somebody in that way, because you know that they're so sad and like there's something that hasn't been expressed there. And I never knew that about Jay. I never knew that he had been so sad. He'd never expressed that. So it makes it all the more important to me, and I think to our community, to talk about this and mental health, because you never know what somebody is going through. You just never know. And maybe you guys look at me and think I've had this like perfect life, and I've been very privileged. I have had a wonderful life, but everybody goes through stuff, really heavy stuff. And I've been there as well. I've struggled so hard. Like I thought about taking my own life, and it's this very weird space to be in. And I was very young, and I'm so grateful to be out of that. But it's important that like I am out of that, and to encourage everybody who might be struggling with mental health or depression or whatever, like there is a way out. Absolutely. Life can be really good. So I wanted to tell you guys that to give you some context about why I'm so concerned with and passionate about mental and spiritual well-being, because I know that a lot of us feel uncomfortable in this human experience from time to time, in one level of intensity or the other. So after Jay passed, I mean, I continued to write music and just went on with it. But of course I had to work. So I got into hospitality, working at the Standard Hotel for a quick minute. And then I ended up working with a startup company in private event planning, which was really cool because it was female owned. This woman named Evelyn owned it. And she was just a boss. Like she developed such a smart business strategy, and our little startup was making money fast. And it really, since it was a startup, we all had to wear many caps, like, and know how to be, you know, customer facing, running around the city, seeing all these beautiful spots. That was a really, really fun job. But I was like, I'm not cut out to work a 9 to 5. And now I'm really concerned with mental health. So how can I start to study this more? I was just getting really curious, more curious and curious about that. So, well, also at the same time, it's important to know I was falling in love with somebody for the first time. My first big love was at this time. And he was also an entrepreneur and doing really well. And I was watching him just like make quantum leaps with his business. And I'm so proud of him. He's doing very well. I don't know where he is in the world, but I see him doing great things. I look back on all of my partners with such gratitude, and like they're each a blessing, you know, no matter how anything ended. And I've never had a super messy ending with anybody, but I'm grateful for all of my partners because they help me advance and accelerate. And I love that. So I felt like I was in like business boot camp with these startups, dating an entrepreneur and working with an entrepreneur. So that was really fun. But that came to a natural end. And I was like, all right, what am I going to do now? My self-worth was still pretty low. I was a little all over the place. And the guy that I was dating was surrounded by models all the time. Like it was just a model crew of entrepreneurs. It was crazy. I was like, are you kidding me? So that put just like, I kind of went back to that trigger of being scouted to model and going through all that stuff. So when we broke up, I was like, all right, now it's time to focus on me. So I booked a solo trip and went to Thailand for a month, where I just went deeper into kind of a meditative state. Like I was on like a walkabout, I felt like, and I love to solo travel. I always try to solo travel when I can. And when I was on that trip, I was like, when I get back to New York, I want to work in meditation. I need to be working in mindfulness and meditation. So I found Inscape, which is a meditation studio in Flatiron, and I think it's still open. I'm not sure. It might have closed in the pandemic. I hope not. And I became a meditation facilitator there. And that was like becoming a monk in a way for the time that I worked there. We would all of us facilitators would be in meditation, sometimes for like 5 hours a day if we did 5 sessions at an hour long each. It was wild. And we weren't even like speaking the meditations. We were guiding people through these like audio journeys almost, and just sitting with them and experiencing it ourselves. And we would have all these wonderful workshops. I learned all about Wim Hof technique, breath work, very transformational. And I started to teach myself how to do like guided hypnosis for myself to listen to when I go to sleep, which I highly recommend doing. Like record yourself like reading a meditation script or whatever's going to work for you. So I got really comfortable guiding other people through meditation after I started to guide myself. So that was great in getting me into like mindfulness boot camp. All of these places were such beautiful lessons. But again, that started to feel like kind of a 9 to 5, and I really wanted to work for myself. So I was also really interested in web design and media management, social media management, because I just love the creativity that goes into media and graphic design and everything. And I knew that I could make better money doing that. So for the like a couple years ago, I guess 3 years ago now, I started to work for myself full-time freelancing, doing social media management and all that stuff, and web design for people, which was very expansive. And it showed me like the power of like making money on my own without having to report to anybody necessarily for the first time. It gave me a much bigger sense of responsibility. Then I got into my next like big love, big relationship, and we lived together in Brooklyn. And around that time, I started the Lifted podcast. So this was like a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago. That was a huge love, expansive experience, and another big portal for awakening. And around that time, I was just like, I don't think I can handle the city. Like, it was a big thing in our relationship to remember. I'd be like, I need to get out of the city. Like, I'd been in New York City, heavy New York City, for almost 8 years at that point. I was like, I need nature. I grew up in nature, running around barefoot in the back field, going swimming. Like, it's heavy, dense energy in a city like New York. And I was like getting ready for a break, but my partner had just gotten there. So things just like weren't working out there. And so it was time to kind of move on from that one. So this was crazy. Like, when we broke up, I went to Maine to kind of give us some space for like a couple days. I was like, let's take the weekend. Let me make a plan, because I'm going to want to move. I need to make a plan. And that's when the pandemic hit and we all went into lockdown. So literally I took our SUV down to New York, packed literally all of my belongings, everything in that SUV, left what I didn't need, went back to Maine, and I was like, I'll just stay here for a couple weeks until I want to make my next move. I need to find a place to move into on the 1st when I go back to New York. My sister was also flying in from North Carolina at the time, just coming off the Appalachian Trail. So the whole family was together, observing quarantine and lockdown, like, what the hell is going on? Of course, as we all were. And of course, it was not 2 days or 2 weeks, it was 4 months. So my sister and I stayed with my family in Maine for the summer of the beginning of quarantine, which was honestly heavenly. It was exactly what I needed. And at that time, I was like, all right, time for my next shift. I need to put myself in school again. So I bought this bundle of courses, like literally 100 courses. I think it was from Bundle Co. Like, check that out if you guys are just like really into learning right now and just want to like up level. So I bought a ton of courses. I got introduced to all these new teachers, and it was on like spiritual practices, self-development, entrepreneurship, money management, like literally everything I needed in my toolkit basically was in this like bundle, which was great. Like, tons of different teachers. And I was also observing like how people were building out courses at this time. Like, and I was like, maybe I want to do that. I hadn't been really thinking about that, but I was like, okay, I see this. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. Like, I felt like I needed to really up the ante and build up my credentials for sure before I wanted to teach anything. So I just kept rolling with that. I started to take Lacey Phillips, like the Pathway membership, which was awesome for doing all of those unblocked series around unblocking like all of my childhood trauma, which we all have, like love trauma, money trauma, all of that. Worked on clearing a lot of that and up leveling. And then I also got trained as a Reiki 2 healer. So really got into energy healing. I always noticed that I was playing with my hands and energy anyways. It was just something that was coming innately. So it was just like the perfect synergy to get Reiki training. And like, I mean, you can feel this. You can really feel the magnetism of energy. Like, feels literally like magnets charging up. So learning Reiki and how to give a session was a very tangible tool for me to work with energy and the ethereal realms, and just connected me to the quantum levels like I really was hoping to be. So that was beautiful. And then, so I feel like I just learned so much. Like, I went to school in quarantine for the first 4 months there. And then I was like, well, okay, it's time to leave the home. Okay, time to leave the nest again. So do I go back to New York, and that really didn't feel good, or do I go to LA? And I was like, that like doesn't really feel that good, but okay. But I knew that Lacey Phillips, actually, I'd been watching all of her Instagram stories, and she was in Topanga, and I was like, if I'm not in Topanga, like I'll just take a road trip across and go back to New York, but it has to be Topanga. So I took a road trip and did all of the northern part of the states, which was exquisite. If you guys ever get a chance to do a road trip like that, please, I think everyone should do it. Like, I have this strange sense of like patriotism now because our country is so fucking beautiful. It's unreal. I just have trouble describing it. If you scroll back in my Instagram feed, you'll see some photos from that trip. But yeah, I spent 2 months. That was a solo trip. I brought my tent and I went camping at every single national park, and I just loved it so much. If I could live outside under the stars every night, I would do it. You can do it, but it might be a little rough. Anyways, so ended up in Topanga, and I was like, okay, I've got 2 days to figure this out before I need to go back if I don't get my shit together. Reached out to the Topanga local Facebook group, and within literally the same day, I was moving into the house that I'm in now. And I'm living with just an incredible group of filmmakers. They worked on Kiss the Ground, which is on Netflix, which is all about like regenerating the land, indigenous rights, honoring our Native American community, everything. It was just like sacred alignment to a T, like manifested this hardcore. That was awesome. So I've been here. And I was about to go back to New York like a little while ago, and like my path was just like, nope, you need to stay in Topanga. Launched the course, Cultivating Confidence, and I just felt ready to do that because I had also taken a behavior change specialization course a few months ago now. And I was like, all right, I already know this stuff. Now I've just got like the title to show it and everything. And I was like, I think I'm ready. I know I'm ready to teach this because in the course, all I'm teaching is my toolkit. What helped me get over depression, anxiety, eating disorders, low self-worth. Like, the reason I can even speak to you guys right now is because I have actively worked on building my self-worth up and my confidence up. That comes with intention. It's not necessarily innate. I had to practice getting ready to feel safe, like being seen and heard. And face rejection potentially and all that stuff. So, I mean, in the course, we've got EFT in there, guided meditation journeys in there, guided affirmations, goal setting, developing daily practices, energetic clearing rituals. Like, it's just my toolkit. And you know, I say that I don't believe that there is an end all be all. I don't think I'm going to hit this point of like enlightenment where everything's perfect. So I take my course whenever I need to up level and come back to those teachings and honorings. Like, I take my course when I'm feeling out of sorts. I still experience like patterns of like, I get triggered often, you know, not that often anymore, but like, I mean, just the other day, I wasn't getting response from somebody, and I just reverted to my old childhood self. Like, they don't like me, something's wrong with me, I've really set them off, like, what's wrong with me? And of course it was just completely irrational, but I was like, all right, come back to the tools. Let's do some EFT. Let's go on a guided visualization meditation journey. Like, yes. So check that out if you guys are interested, and just know that it will be in your back pocket for as long, forever. You know, it's something you can come back to again and again. Yeah. So that is like my story in like a little succinct version there. But I just want you guys to know that you're not alone. I know you hear that all the time, but you're not fucking alone. I'm right here. If you ever need anything, you just send me a DM. Let me know what's going on. Even if you just want to vent, like, you can tell me. I really love to hold that space for you guys. And it's an honor for me when you feel comfortable enough to share what you're going through and what you're experiencing. And this makes me emotional. I just love you guys so much. And I just want you to know how loved you are, because we don't need to struggle so much. Like, life can be really joyful and fun. And it's a decision that we have to make. And I don't want that to sound like an easy bypassing thing, but it is. And there's always a way through the pain. And if we can just get curious about our pain and what we're experiencing and go into it with compassion and just be very gentle with ourselves and remember ourselves as our childhood selves, like, we deserve unconditional love. And remember that our worth is innate. Our worth does not come from our status, our looks, our jobs, the friends we have, the person that we're dating. Our worth is innate. Like think of your pet. Like I'm thinking of Luna out there. I love her to death. Like I would do anything for her. And she does nothing. She's just chilling. She's just a little my spirit guide in dog form. Like I love her. So understand that you have that same worth. You don't have to do anything to prove it. You are loved, and I love you. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for these 20 minutes, and I hope that something resonated with you. And I'm excited to keep hanging out with you on this journey. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.